morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are, whenever you're watching this. This is Floating in Dreams. Today's video is going to be a tea time chat about problematic brands and why I think that canceling them isn't necessarily the best tactic. Welcome to everybody watching today's video. Thank you so very much for joining me. In today's video, I'm going to be doing another tea time chat without the tea, because I made myself a cappuccino, and I've been doing these videos because I thought it would be fun to have conversations amongst friends about topics that I think I would like to chat about, some of them having to do with the beauty community, some of them maybe being unrelated in the future. Who knows where this is gonna go, but I just thought we could have a chat. Keep it real, keep it respectful in the comments as well. So if I see you leaving anything that's too negative, you're going to get deleted and blocked. I'm terribly sorry. But yeah, just grab yourself a cuppa or something else to drink, no matter what time of day it is and that suits your needs at the moment. And then we're going to get into this video. And in case you're new here and you've never watched one of my videos, hi, my name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I love coming on here to chat about eyeshadow palettes, accessories reviews, and I also love getting the use out of my makeup. And since I have a fair skin tone that's cool to neutral, I am trying to sort of come at this whole beauty thing from a snow angel-like perspective. So if you'd like to join my little snow angel club on here, then please consider subscribing, because I'd love to have you join my little family here on the internet. So I'm going to be just sectioning this video off into different topics, and the first topic I need to mention is what this video is not. And the thing this video is not gonna do is going to be rehashing drama. I'm not gonna go into it. I'm very often not even aware of the drama that's going on, because I tend to engage with a part of the beauty community that is pretty much drama free. So it's not until I start showing a product in my own videos that someone will say something in a comment, and then I need to go and Google what on earth is going on, because I don't watch drama channels. I don't follow a lot of the YouTubers or brands that seem to be stirring up a lot of drama all the time. There are some resources you can use if you want to know what the drama is. You can just Google the name of a brand or an influencer and then drama or problematic, and usually whatever pops up first tends to be in line with what then is going on. And if you are very much interested in the drama of the past in the beauty community, I can highly recommend RIFENSTINE as a channel. JJ has done a complete lowdown of everything that happened in the beauty community in recent years. She's really did a deep dive into the history of the beauty community and sort of like also exploring where the drama came from. So I'm going to be leaving her channel linked in the description box down below, so if you want to get the full lowdown. They're very long videos, but I think she did a really great job, and since she already did it, I'm not going to rehash anything she has already said. So yeah, this video is not going to be about the drama. I'm not going to talk necessarily about why brands are canceled. I want to focus on why I think that canceling brands isn't necessarily a good thing. So what I really want to focus on in this video is the cancellation itself. So not why do brands are canceled, but why I think canceling a brand because of drama that has been going on isn't necessarily the best practice of putting a brand in its place or letting you know that what they do is something you disagree with. So that's where I'm coming from. So for me, it's much more about the cancellation rather than the drama itself. And that brings me to the second topic, and actually the real content topic of this video, which is negativity sells. So if you have problems with drama or things that are going on surrounding brands and influencers and creators on this platform, you need to realize that what often does better is negativity. If you stir up drama, you're going to get views. And I actually watched a video the other day where Angelica Nukvist made the point that one of the reasons why there are fewer viewers in the beauty community, why these really big hyped up YouTubers that also were part of the drama sometimes no longer get so many views, is because the people who came for the drama have left the beauty community. And I definitely think that that's a good point also that I would like to sort of bring in here, that because there is negativity and drama going on, people go like, huh, wait, what? What's going on here? And it actually creates views. Now, I mentioned this before, it is a thing called negativity bias, which is apparently like part of our human condition. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not entirely sure. But we are attracted to drama as a species. Like, we see people like fighting and we go like, what's going on there? But when people have a general conversation, we try to stay out of it. So when it comes to you canceling a brand because there is negativity, that's actually the kind of a reaction that people want, because then you need to explain why you are canceling something. And by canceling it and making a big deal out of it, you're bringing even more attention to something you already disagree with. So it is sort of like a negative spiral, depending on which way you view it. So even if you cancel a brand, it's not going to matter all that much, because the negativity can actually be it can just be part of a marketing strategy, people. That's been the case for decades, as long as there have been marketing firms. You just need to make the best out of a bad situation. That's something that happens a lot. And I think that that's something you need to realize as well, that if you say, I'm going to cancel this brand, and you really make a whole thing out of it, that's only going to add fuel to the fire. So depending on what your aim is with the cancellation, if your aim is to make sure that nobody talks about it anymore, you need to simply just stop talking about it and not say like, we're gonna cancel this, or you need to cancel this, or do it like that. Next up, I need to dissect this topic into why I think that canceling brands isn't the same as what people might think they are actually doing. So with this, we need to go back in time a little bit, because when it comes to brands, until fairly recently, brands were these faceless, nameless kind of entities that produced products for us to buy. I still very much remember the, makeup ads from the 90s and the early 2000s where, you had Queen Latifah for CoverGirl and those kind of things. So you had a brand, and then they would get a celebrity to promote that brand and to be the face of. We still see this a lot in the fragrance realm, of course, where you have famous actors and singers and whoever who are attached to a brand to be the face of that brand, and they show up in their campaigns. That doesn't mean that that person is also the brand, like they represent the brand, but that's different. So when it comes to canceling brands, I really feel like people are confusing the brands as being people, and of course there are people working for that brand, but it doesn't necessarily mean that because a person is associated with the brand, that the brand is necessarily that person, or that person is that brand. And of course with social media, those lines have been blurring, but that will be the next point that I will want to make. And I think that's something you need to be very careful with when you call out for people to start canceling brands, is that brands also have employees, and sometimes it's just people doing their jobs. And that may not be a job that they even enjoy doing, or that they want to do, or that they agree with that they should do, but sometimes the job just needs to get done. Does that make it right? No. But I do think that we need to realize that brands are here to make money. They are money-making machines. They are businesses. They aren't people. And again, I would like to give an example here of, yes, brands need to be held accountable for the things that they do, for sure. But I also think that with how companies are set up, and that at the end of the day, in order to have a very successful company that gets you into, I don't know, the quote 500 Forbes whatever list, you're gonna have to watch that bottom line, and that means you're going to take decisions that aren't always going to be the best of the planet, the best for the people, etc., etc. So there's always a balance there. And I think that as consumers, and especially within the beauty community, there seems to be this call for, or people just seem to forget that that's what it's about for businesses. It's about making money, not about how they make you feel. And very often, if brands emphasize on that, it's either greenwashing or they are just sort of like doing it for a show. Like they're just trying to seem good, but then what's going on actually behind the scenes may not be that great. And that brings me to the next point I want to make, which is that because of social media, brands and the people behind the brand, so not the people promoting the brand, but the people representing the brand, have become more like a one sort of entity thing. So I think that that's definitely been a shift. Why canceling brands is now also something that is like easier to do, easier to know about. We know who the owner is of brand so-and-so, whereas 10, 15 years ago, you didn't have a clue. So with the advent of internet, with the advent of whatever it is that we're doing here, you just have much more access to information, and that can then lead to people saying, you know, calling for cancellation of the brand as a whole. But why not cancel the individual if it's the individual's actions? Yeah, so I think we need to draw a line between what is an individual doing something and what is the brand doing something, rather than it is the brand at all times. So yeah, because of social media, because brands are looking for engagement, because that's a good marketing tactic. So trying to link to the audience, trying to speak to the audience. But again, at the end of the day, they're not doing that because they're your friend. They are doing that because it's going to make them money, because they have found that using influencers, that being like having a voice on social media and actively talking about it is good for business. And of course, right now we also have companies that are coming up that are trying to make it more of their identity, more part of it. But at the end of the day, we also see companies like that either not being very widely sold or not being very inclusive in other ways, because they can just target to a much smaller market than these really big name brands perhaps can be. I already briefly mentioned influencers here as well. So what you also see happening is that brands use an influencer's video or whatever, and then because that influencer does or says something or has said something in the past, now by extension people are calling for the entire brand, because the brand should have been like doing a better job at selecting who they work with, which I think that that's a valid point. Do your due diligence, but we also need to do our due diligence in who we support as influencers, because brands won't work with creators if they aren't big enough. So I think that that's a double-edged sword. Yes, a brand needs to be very careful who they work with, but we as an audience also need to be very careful who we are subscribing to and who we are watching, because if you give a lot of view time in the millions to people with opinions you don't agree with, then of course that also factors into it, because a brand is not going to promote an influencer on their brand channel if that influencer isn't going to bring in a certain audience for them. That's just the way that's the nature of the game. So now that I've sort of explored like brands and how I feel that works and what goes into like why drama can actually be effective as a marketing strategy, I also wanted to briefly touch upon why we actually cancel brands. Like, what are reasons that we feel are valid to say, I no longer want to talk about this about this brand. I no longer want to buy from this and that product for that and that reason. And I think that there are so many different reasons, and what I very often see happening when people are like canceling brands, it sometimes has to do with racism, but other people, they don't call it cancellation, but there are a lot of cruelty-free creators on the platform as well. So I will only buy from cruelty-free makeup brands, and then when a makeup brand ends up no longer being cruelty-free or changing their status, or we didn't know about it, people can get pretty angry about not knowing what was going on behind the scenes. So there's just a lot of change, and the topics that people, like the reasons that people use to cancel brands, I'm not saying they're not valid reasons, it's just there are very many reasons that you can use to say, I'm no longer buying from brand so-and-so. And I sort of did this like thought experiment and going over all of the different topics that I, on a personal level, disagree with, and what I would then have to declutter, because this is definitely the case whenever I film declutters and I keep around certain brands. I always get a couple of comments from people, oh, I liked you until you kept that product, or from that brand. And so I've been getting reactions like that, and I understand that. But if I had to declutter all of the makeup that is not cruelty free, where the brand has like stirred up some form of drama right now or possibly sometime in the future, where the brand doesn't have an inclusive shade range, where their sustainability practices are incredibly shoddy, like whatever reason you can think of to say I'm no longer buying from this brand, I think I'm left with like 5 products to talk about. I would have to declutter 99.9% of my makeup collection because it's either brands that are overproducing and overpromoting and releasing stuff all the time. I'm not sure, like I'm not very well versed in like workers' rights and who is producing the makeup that we buy and whether they are paid fair wages. I mean, a lot of the makeup we buy is produced in low-wage countries. Is that always going to be a fair price point? So if I take all of my values into account that I hold very near and dear to my heart, I would have to stop buying makeup altogether, because I don't think I have ever found a makeup brand that does everything and that is above board on all of those options. And very often, even if a brand is above board and they report on things like sustainability and what their workers make and all that, they are still sometimes, you know, twisting things in their favor. And I cannot really think of examples from the top of my head within the makeup community, but you know, within fashion, I have read quite a lot about like the fashion industry and how a lot of brands say they are more sustainable because they are now using organic cotton, but it's still very murky and it's still very difficult to find out whether the entire process, like the entire chain, is more sustainable now that they're also using more sustainable materials. So it's very difficult as a consumer to really tell. And if I just add up all of the factors that for me are important in my life and that I like to live by, then when it comes to the goods I consume, even outside of makeup, I mean, you might as well stop consuming altogether. And that, again, I would like to reiterate the point I just made about brands being here to make a buck. For them, it's about the bottom line. It's about how much money they're making. And I love how I see some creators on this platform being all about like sustainability and I want to do this and I'm promoting this, that, and that. And then they do a massive Amazon order. And I'm like, to me, that just doesn't add up, which is why I very much refrain from putting any labels on my own practices. I know what I would like to achieve, but I also know that I'm taking baby steps as to what could possibly be achieved. And I went through a phase in my life where in terms of like sustainability, I was trying to go like package free, plastic free, like doing all those things. And the amount of time and effort and brain space it took to do that, you pretty much have to dedicate your life to it. And unless that's your job, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to just even do half of what some people are promoting you should do. So yeah, I'm trying to make the choices wherever I can to do those kind of things. But at the end of the day, I'm also a consumer just like you are. And I think that at the end of the day, we all are. And that's part of the problem. And part of the problem is us buying stuff and companies producing stuff. And if that wasn't the focus, but hey, welcome to capitalism. But yeah, that would be a completely different rant. So I'm not going to go into that. And tying into like the topics that are very often like used as reasons for canceling people, not only is it very widespread, but it's also for me a little bit like who decides? So who decides when we as a community start to say like, oh, we no longer buy from brand so and so? Because here I've also felt that it's a little bit of a double standard, because I've seen people almost like taking up arms, canceling certain brands, and then you have other brands where I feel they do similar things and they are still promoted and nobody is going like, we need to do something about this. So for me, it's very much like cherry picking, and it seems to be whatever is like the topic of the day is the thing that gets canceled. And that's why I can almost not even take it seriously if there's another like drama streak and all of a sudden we need to again, point I already made earlier, negativity sells. And as long as that's the case, there are always going to be brands that are going to be looking for the drama and that are going to do things and milk it for what it's worth just so they can make a buck. And now I would like to sort of really bring everything together and drive my point home. So yes, brands are trying to make money. We cannot, as consumers, do everything. The minute you buy something, you're guilty of doing, like agreeing with a voice somewhere that is opposing to yours. And what I just find so sad is that this instant call out for cancellation means that we are running the risk of shutting down opposing voices. So the minute we disagree with something, it's like, no. And I'm not sure whether that's the way to move forward. Now, I want to be adding a bit of nuance here because I have seen a lot of people, especially in newspapers that I read, saying things like, oh, like pulling down statues is bad because it was history and at some point in time, this happened and that was the view and you cannot cancel that view. And then I'm like, yeah, but you're also not listening to the party who wants to tear down the statue. And I think that when it comes to a lot of things, there's always two sides. And as society, we are always focusing on one side of the story, but we just need to be more aware of the fact that there are many more views and that all of those views hold equal ground to be heard, to be told. And that, yes, there are things that are just blatantly bad. I'm not gonna say that it's not. But here I would like to, again, take an example from a realm that is in the beauty community. What you see a lot happening in the world, I mean, and throughout time, is that books have been banned, have been burned for authors who had opposing views, opposing religions, opposing whatever. So banning authors and banning books for whatever is written in there because you disagree with them is, I think, a really good example of what can happen when you do these things. You're never ever going to eradicate it completely. And what you see is that, for instance, some authors had views that I really, really disagree with. And even I disagree with their views and that they live by. I'm not going to go and say I'm not going to read that person's book anymore. Because maybe that book is going to give me that opposing view to teach me how that person thinks. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to think like them. It means that I now better understand how that other voice speaks and what they find important, and that I can, again, adjust my values and think about things in another way. So it's always going to be like navigating on this continuum. It's not black and white. It's just, we need to try and navigate, and that means also being open to people who disagree with you and who say things that hurt you as well. And that's very difficult, of course. So ultimately what it comes down to me, rather than canceling brands and just saying, no, we're no longer going to buy from this, as I've already demonstrated hopefully in this video, you would have to stop buying things if that is your incentive for saying, like, this brand I don't agree with because they said so and so, or they did this which hurts me, so I'm no longer going to buy from them. Then you can stop buying products in our consumer market, because every brand, every company has something that you could take offense to. So as long as we stay open to having conversations, being open to differing opinions, and not shutting down people who say this is hurtful to me, but trying to learn from that and going, moving forward without the need to shut down something in an arbitrary or knee-jerk reaction where you go like, wait, what's going on here? Because ultimately it can be easy to be canceled. It happens in a snap second, but it's far more difficult if that person didn't deserve to be canceled to build back their reputation afterwards. And this also comes into like things like power and what position you have in society, whether it is easy again to climb back out of things. So that's why I think we need to be very careful as a community what we do, the decisions you make, and whatever decision someone makes doesn't necessarily make them a bad person per se. It just means that they have a differing opinion, and then ask about that differing opinion and just ask why. Why do you decide to do A, B, C, or D? And I think that most creators on this platform will be able to tell you why they have taken certain decisions. It's just that if we as creators need to explain all of our reasonings in every video we do, we're gonna have videos that are going to be prefaced by 5-minute long disclaimers every single time we film, which is also not going to be very easy to work around with. But hey, if there's something there that you are disagreeing with, leave a comment, ask the question without prejudice, and I think that that's the way we can all move forward, and we keep it respectful, open, and of course if people make mistakes, it's okay to call them out, but then you can still do that in a more respectful way, I think. So canceling brands, sometimes, yeah, sure, depending on their track record, depending on what is going on, but we also need to bear in mind that for a very long time, brands and companies we bought from were these faceless entities and we didn't have anyone to go to. It's really a very recent development that you have a face to put with the brand to say like, I dislike what you are doing, stop doing that, please. And then I think there are still many steps to take between saying, I don't like what you're saying or doing, versus, going up to, I no longer am going to be engaging with what this brand does or says. Because at the end of the day, I think also this this space would just be a lot better and friendlier if we all just try to get along, and if we can actually see past our differences and we look more for the similarities that we have. That's just the way it is. So without further ado, thank you so much for watching today's video. Leave a comment down below, but keep it respectful, you know the game. And then I really hope you enjoyed watching the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more by me. I do one of these videos a month, but if you'd like to stay tuned for more, I make many other videos every single week. So if you'd like to stick around, and then I see you in the next video. Bye-bye.